Emperor Yi Hwan knew he was going to die the moment Kang Mujin entered his chamber carrying his evening medicine and refused to look him in the eyes. At 27, Yi Hwan had ruled Joseon for 11 years, but only in name. He had inherited the throne at 16 after his father's sudden death, only to discover that the crown did not make him powerful. His maternal grandfather, Lord Min-suk, controlled much of the royal court. Other members of his family controlled the army and inner palace, while secretaries decided which petitions even reached his desk. Yi Hwan had been surrounded by power his entire life, yet almost none of it had belonged to him. Then, among his late father's belongings, he discovered an old physician's journal that changed everything. His mother, Queen So-yeon, had not died from fever when Yi Hwan was 7. She had been poisoned. His father, King Taejun, had eventually discovered the conspiracy and begun investigating the people responsible, only to die before he could expose them. Suddenly, Yi Hwan understood the father he had spent years believing had become cold toward him. After the queen's death, Taejun had dismissed servants, surrounded his son with guards, and stopped smiling. His father had not stopped loving him. He had been afraid. Yi Hwan secretly continued his father's investigation while pretending to remain the obedient puppet everyone expected. For almost a year, Lord Min and the ministers suspected nothing. Eventually, Yi Hwan gathered enough evidence to destroy them. There was only one person he trusted with the truth: Kang Mujin. Mujin had grown up beside him. They had studied, eaten, and trained together. To Yi Hwan, he was more than a companion. He was a brother. That was why seeing Mujin carrying the poisoned medicine hurt more than knowing he was about to die. Yi Hwan stared at the porcelain bowl. "You told them." Mujin lowered his head. "I had no choice, Your Majesty." Yi Hwan almost laughed. Those were the words everyone used when choosing themselves over him. Knowing exactly what awaited him, Yi Hwan lifted the bowl and drank. Minutes later, fire tore through his stomach. He collapsed. But before his head struck the floor, Mujin rushed forward and caught him. Yi Hwan looked into his oldest friend's eyes. "Was there ever anyone in this palace who truly stood beside me?" Tears filled Mujin's eyes, but before he could answer, darkness swallowed Yi Hwan. Then someone screamed his childhood name. "Hwan!" Yi Hwan opened his eyes. A woman leaned over him, and his breath stopped. He knew that face. He remembered seeing it lifeless beneath funeral silk. "Mother!" Queen Se-yeon immediately pulled him into her arms. "My child, what frightened you?" Yi Hwan froze. Then he noticed his hands. They were tiny. He was not 27 anymore. Somehow, Yi Hwan was 7 years old again, and the mother he had mourned for 20 years was alive. He threw his arms around her. Se-yeon laughed softly, believing her son had awakened from a nightmare. She could never have known he was holding her because he remembered burying her. Then Yi Hwan remembered the date. His mother was supposed to become ill tomorrow. Within 3 months, she would be dead. His second life had begun at the exact moment when he still had time to save her. The following morning, Queen Se-yeon's tonic arrived. Yi Hwan immediately recognized the porcelain cup. Smiling innocently, he reached toward it. "Mother, may I taste it?" The female servant carrying the tray stiffened. Yi Hwan reached again. She suddenly pulled the tray backward, spilling the tonic across the floor. A palace cat wandered toward the puddle. The servant panicked and kicked the broken cup away before the animal could touch it. Unfortunately for her, King Taejun had entered the chamber in time to see everything. His gaze moved from the shattered cup to the terrified servant, and finally to his son. Yi Hwan said nothing, neither did Taejun. The servant was arrested that evening. By morning, she was dead inside her cell. Yi Hwan remembered that too. The conspiracy was already moving. Saving his mother once would not be enough, so Yi Hwan decided to become the one thing his enemies would never fear: a harmless child. To the royal court, Prince Yi Hwan remained a cheerful 7-year-old who preferred sweets and wooden soldiers to politics. He intentionally answered lessons incorrectly, complained about studying, and wandered into important meetings carrying toys. No one sent him away. That became their greatest mistake. While Yi Hwan played quietly near his father's desk, ministers discussed matters they would never mention before another adult. Soon, he knew which officials secretly met Lord Min, which guards accepted money, and which physicians possessed suspicious wealth. Then Yi Hwan discovered something unexpected. His father was investigating them too. One evening, Yi Hwan slipped into Taejun's private study searching for an old document. Looking for something? Yi Hwan froze. His father was sitting behind the desk. Thinking quickly, Yi Hwan lowered his head. "My wooden horse." Taejun looked around the locked royal study. "Your wooden horse is in here." Yi Hwan wisely remained silent. Instead of questioning him, Taejun placed two documents on the table. Minister Han wants additional soldiers stationed at the western gate. Yi Hwan's stomach tightened. He remembered Minister Han. In his first life, that man had helped open the western gate during a coup. Yi Hwan forced himself to look bored and left. The following afternoon, he deliberately broke a ceremonial vase near the western barracks. While servants cleaned the mess, he quietly told the captain of the guard that his father wanted the western gate watched carefully. The captain immediately reported the strange instruction to Taejun. That evening, father and son sat alone with a wooden chessboard between them. Taejun moved one piece. "Lately, someone inside this palace has been moving pieces around me." Yi Hwan's heartbeat quickened. Taejun looked directly at him. "Is it you?" For the first time since returning, Yi Hwan was frightened, not because he feared punishment. He was looking at the father he remembered burying. If it were me, would father be angry? No. Would you be afraid? Taejun hesitated. Perhaps. Yi Hwan swallowed. Of me? His father leaned forward. For you. Yi Hwan's eyes filled with tears. I thought you hated me. Taejun stared at him. Why would you think that? You always look sad when you see me. Taejun's expression softened. He walked around the table and knelt before his son. I look at you and wonder how long I can keep this palace from swallowing you. Yi Hwan could no longer hold back his tears. For years, he had believed his father had abandoned him emotionally. Now he finally understood. His father had been trying to protect him. And suddenly, revenge no longer seemed like the most important reason to change the past. Yi Hwan wanted his mother to live. He wanted his father to live. He wanted another chance with the family he had understood only after losing them. So he whispered, "Grandfather Min is dangerous." Taejun became still. "How do you know?" "Don't ask me that yet, please." For a long moment, Taejun studied him. Then he nodded. "Then I won't ask yet." From that night forward, father and son began hunting the same enemy. Taejun investigated officials while Yi Hwan listened wherever adults forgot children had ears. Queen Seyun's medicine was placed under royal supervision. Suspicious servants disappeared from important positions, and corrupt officials were watched. History began to change. And so did the people inside it. The greatest surprise was Kang Mu-jin. In this life, Mu-jin was only 8. When Yi Hwan first saw him again, he remembered the poison, the betrayal, and Mu-jin holding him while he died. Then 8-year-old Mu-jin came running toward him with 2 rice cakes. "I saved the bigger one for you." Yi Hwan stared. There was no guilt in the boy's face, no deception. He was simply his best friend. For the first time, Yi Hwan wondered whether Mu-jin had ever truly been his enemy. Perhaps people were not born into the people they eventually became. Perhaps the palace changed them. Yi Hwan investigated Mu-jin's family and discovered that Lord Min had been secretly paying Mu-jin's father for years, trapping the Kang family under his control long before the boys grew up. Mu-jin's betrayal had begun with a chain placed around him while he was still a child. This time, Yi Hwan would break it. As Lord Min's influence disappeared, the old minister realized someone was destroying his power, so he moved early. During the royal harvest ceremony, assassins disguised as palace guards approached the western gate, expecting corrupt soldiers to let them through. Instead, soldiers personally selected by King Taejun were waiting. The assassins were captured alive. One carried an order bearing Lord Min's private mark. Another carried records proving payments to ministers, physicians, and military officers. By sunset, Lord Min-suk was under arrest. He demanded to see the king. Instead, 7-year-old Yi Hwan entered his prison chamber. Lord Min laughed when he saw his grandson. "My little grandson." Yi Hwan calmly approached the bars. Do you think your father has won? Lord Min asked. The court will always need men like me. Your father is soft, your mother is naive. And you, he smiled, you are a child. Yi Hwan stepped closer. That was your mistake. The smile disappeared. You believed children remember nothing, Yi Hwan continued, but children remember who frightened their mothers. For the first time, fear entered Lord Minsuk's eyes. Yi Hwan turned and walked away. He did not ask for his grandfather's execution. He did not need to. Lord Min would face a public judgment before the same court he had manipulated, with his crimes exposed for everyone to see. Yi Hwan had learned something from his first life. Revenge committed in darkness could be rewritten as tragedy. Truth exposed beneath daylight was much harder to bury. Months passed. Queen Seon never became ill. King Taejun never became the frightened, distant man Yi Hwan remembered. The corrupt ministers were removed, and the Kang family was freed from Lord Min's control. One spring morning, Yi Hwan sat beneath a flowering apricot tree beside Mujin. Mujin pushed a rice cake toward him. You always take the bigger one. Yi Hwan looked at his friend. In another life, this boy had become the man who held him while poison stopped his heart. Now he was complaining about rice cakes. Yi Hwan suddenly laughed. Mujin frowned. What? Nothing. Then give it back. Yi Hwan immediately shoved the rice cake into his mouth. Mujin shouted in outrage. Across the courtyard, Queen Soyeon laughed. Yi Hwan turned. His mother stood beneath the palace veranda. Beside her was King Taejun. His mother was alive, his father was alive, and his friend was still his friend. Yi Hwan finally understood. The past was not a page filled with words permanently written in ink. People could choose differently. Mujin could choose differently. His father could choose differently, and so could Yi Hwan. That evening, Taejun found his son sitting on the palace steps watching the sunset. Father? When I become king someday, what if I'm terrible at it? Taejun thought for a moment. Then listen to the people brave enough to tell you when you're wrong. Yi Hwan smiled faintly. I did that once. His father raised an eyebrow. It didn't go very well. Taejun laughed, and after a moment, Yi Hwan laughed too. Then his father placed an arm around his shoulders. In his first life, Yi Hwan had spent 11 years sitting upon the highest throne in Joseon. He had possessed a crown, servants, soldiers, and unimaginable wealth, yet he had been completely alone. Now he was 7 years old. He had no crown, no royal seal, no real authority. But his father was beside him, his mother's laughter drifted through the palace, and somewhere nearby his best friend was probably still angry about a stolen rice cake. Only then did Yi Hwan understand what he had truly lost in his first life. It had never been the throne. So, for once, he stopped thinking about the crown waiting for him and the kingdom he would someday inherit. He simply leaned against his father and allowed himself to be someone's son.